Hi, this is Misha. And starting honestly a year ago, although I've only kind of started publishing them in the last little bit, we were revisiting Walther pistols. First video we looked at the PP, PPK. Then we looked at the P38, the pre-war and wartime, and then we looked at the post-war P38 and P1. Well, though this gun is featured in several of our older videos, I really think it's worth mentioning again because I just think the story behind this is pretty cool. This is Walther's PP Super. This was really the final new design in the Polizeipistole, the police pistol, the PP series. And this was chambered for 9x18 police, which is an interesting cartridge. Now some commercially sold were chambered for 380 9x17 curs as well, but the service version was 9x18. So what do we have here? It's a neat gun. Just for some comparison, here's my PPK S 1969. This was a version of the PP and PPK kind of mated together for a few different reasons. US law was one of them, but also it gave a longer grip and a larger capacity. This is actually a West German police surplus, so some of these were in service. The PPKS here has an 8-shot magazine. It's in 7.65 or 32 caliber. It's got the full length grip, as I said, from the PP, but it's got the shorter barrel from the PPK and shorter slide. It does have the improved sights we see post-war. It also has the ribbed for your pleasure target trigger, which started to appear around this time. It has a decocker that doubles as a safety. You notice it stays down. Yeah, pretty conventional blowback PPK gun. For more on it, check out our first video in this kind of Redux series. That led in to the PP Super. This is essentially a scaled up PP or PPKS for the 9x18 cartridge. Now the 9x18 has an interesting history in and of itself. Before and during World War II, the German Luftwaffe experimented with 9x18 Ultra. Basically this was a souped up 380, a souped up 9x17 curs. During that war, Germany issued many guns chambered for 7.65 Browning 32, but it was reluctant to issue 380. It did issue some guns chambered for it, but it wanted a little more punch. So basically the Luftwaffe wanted a compact gun that was easy to manufacture, reliable, accurate, and a simple blowback. So they came up with 9x18 Ultra as the most powerful round that could safely be fired in a straight blowback gun. After the war, the Soviets would actually occupy Germany, using the 9x18 as kind of a stepping off point for the 9x18 Makarov cartridge. So I brought out an East German Makarov here. Essentially, they took a PPK, they scaled it up, chambered it for 9x18 PM Makarov. This was tested in '49, adopted, went into production in 1951 in Russia, and everywhere else in the comm block throughout the 50s and early 60s. What the Makarov is, for the one person who doesn't know, it's a single double action gun, direct blowback. It has a slide release, heel mounted mag catch, 8-round magazine. We have a decocker safety, wraparound single piece grip. It's a simplified and again slightly scaled up PPK that was tried and tested. And again, this is an East German example. They would use this as the Pistole-M. These would go into service in the very late 50s and go into production by the early 1960s in East Germany. So they had these. They would issue these to military and police. And again, the Makarov is very common in Soviet times. So back to the PP Super. In the 1960s, West German police commonly issued guns in .32, the PP, PPK, PPKS, so on and so forth, amongst others. But by the early 70s, it was perceived that it was no longer adequate. There were more accounts of terrorism, and terrorists were starting to use body armor and other defenses, so they needed a more powerful cartridge. Thus, 9x18 Ultra was revisited and updated by Walther to 9x18 Police. Work would begin around 1971, running through 72, when this gun was introduced here. So much like the Makarov, this is just a scaled up PPK for the new cartridge, but it does have some changes and updates to make it more of a standard service gun. For one, we have adjustable rear sights now. You can see the screws there. We have a double single action trigger with a bobbed hammer for better carry. Now the safety is interesting. Doesn't do anything here. Cock it though, and it'll decock. So we have a decocker only. Now this is paired with a very interesting firing pin. I don't know if you can see it on video, but there's a little hole in the hammer. That's for the firing pin tail to slip into. The firing pin itself will tilt out of the way if the trigger isn't depressed. So it's got a very safe, very innovative safety system that is truly drop safe, where the firing pin is only lined up with the hammer and the chamber face when the trigger is fully depressed. Otherwise, it's tilted out of the way. Pretty innovative and meant for German police. We still have a Browning style mag release, although it's a large button now. We have an 8-round magazine. We've got kind of an oversized grip, bulges in the back here. It is a two-piece design, although it is wraparound. It's meant for better ergonomics and shooting. They were trying to get the best accuracy possible. It is a direct blowback gun, just like a PP. But now we have a slide release, external, which obviously wasn't on original PPs and PPKs. Interestingly, that is a feature that Makarov's had. So it's a very simple gun. Now, the benefits to having a direct blowback like this are, because we have a fixed barrel, we have very good accuracy. We're also simple, which is great for reliability and durability. We just have the one mainspring. Disassembly is just like on any other PPK. You just pull this down and slide comes off. So very a simple, effective gun. The only really somewhat complicated part is the firing pin safety, which was still good for police use. The drawbacks, though, are you're going to have stouter recoil because there's no locked breech system to kind of soak up some of the recoil in the action. And we're still limited by the 9x18 Ultra or police cartridge, because while it is more powerful than 7.65, 32, or even 380, it's still not quite as powerful as 9x19. On the other hand, these guns were cheaper to manufacture and faster to manufacture again. So beginning around 72, 73, Hello Kitty, there was kind of debate with West German police. Should we go with 9x18 Ultra or 9x19 Parabellum Luger NATO as the new standard police service round? And there was kind of a back and forth. Both had their proponents and opponents and pros and cons. Walther would offer the PP Super from 1973. A few other guns would pop out in 9x18, but in the end it was basically a dead-end gun and a dead-end cartridge. Only about 2,000 PP Supers would be sold to West German police, namely Bavarian. I also had a report once that some of these were used by New York police officers. The source was very credible, but I haven't ever been able to back it up, so take it as you will. So there was very limited police interest. I couldn't find a total production number, but it must not have been very many. Probably just a few thousand. I definitely under 10,000 for sure. Probably 3,500, maybe 4,000 total. Again, only about 2,000 went to West German police, who were the primary target market for these. And once it was decided in 1974-75 that West German police would go with 9x19 Parabellum, that was pretty much it. Walther would continue to offer the PP Super until 1979, probably just trying to sell off what they'd already manufactured, and then they would remove it from their catalog. And as I said at the beginning, they would do a civilian commercial version in 9x17. Today these are quite rare. They did make more of the 9x18 police guns. The thing is, you really can't find 9x18 police as a cartridge all that easily. It is out there, but you have to look. It's made in small batches. And again, there's only, I think, 3 or 4 guns ever chambered for it that went into production. Now, you cannot use 9x18 Makarov in it. They're 2 different rounds, even though they started with 9x18 Ultra. The actual diameter of the Makarov bullet is 9.2 millimeter. So it's actually a little bit larger than a 9 mil. Whereas the diameter of 9x18 police was 9.02. So it's a smaller cartridge, smaller bullet, I should say. So if you try to put Makarov in it, amongst many other issues, it's just a little bit too big for the bore. Now, while the PP Super was a dead end, it did lead to this gun here. By the way, before I forget, for people who love numbers, this is an all steel gun. It is 28 ounces. It's under 7 inches, about 6.9 inches tip to tip, with a 3.6 inch barrel. There you go. Who doesn't like numbers? So it's not a very small or light gun. It did lead to the P4, which you saw in our post-war P38, P1 video. This is essentially a P1 made for police starting in 1974 with a half-inch shorter barrel. But what we're interested in is the safety. It too features the decocker only safety, and also it too features the firing pin block. You can probably more easily see the dimple in the hammer for the tail of the pin on this one. And while the P4 would not be a hugely successful gun for Walther, they would make a few less than 10,000 of these, about 7,500 to 8,500, and these would remain in their catalog till 1981. But this would lead to the P5, which is really a gun for a different video, but I wanted to show that while the PP Super was a bit of a dead end, its safety system was carried over to the P4, which carried it on even further to more successful designs. It's just kind of an interesting little footnote. Again, we've mentioned this gun in previous videos, but it's never had its own video, and I thought, why not? I've had this gun for a number of years, probably about 15 now. I don't even remember why I picked it up. It just kind of struck my interest, and at the time these weren't very expensive because of the bizarre chambering and whatnot, so probably cost me $350 back then, and I've had it ever since. It's just a curious little gun, and it really does complete the whole series. I do think it's interesting how much it does resemble the Makarov too, in just overall silhouette, dimensions, grip style. They actually have a lot in common. Kind of makes me wonder if Walther was looking at a Makarov a little bit when they were doing these. Well, anyway, that's about it for the Walther PP Super. If you have any questions or comments, do please post them below. If you could, like, share, subscribe. And as always, please tune in again next time for more interesting videos, and definitely check out our Walther playlist. We'll catch you then.